Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen. Assalatu salam ala Rasulillahi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Halim wa salam bikum. Anzarama to my Fulbe community and to my African brothers everywhere you may be. Let me give you my greetings, the Islamic greetings. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi katu. Lil ikwani fati fi din. Assalamu ala mani tabahuda lil ikwani fati fi Africa, Europa, America, Caribbean, Asia, wakuli makan. How you doing today, my dear brothers and sisters? It's kind of like a short notice, but I wanted to cover a topic because we've had some news in reference to the title at hand and why the African leaders are routinely disrespected globally. When they leave the continent, they're not given their due respect. And we have to ask the question, should they be given their due respect? Just because you see two leaders, European leaders from a parliament of one respected country, shakes hands with the African leader, that's just a custom. But it doesn't really tell the story of what they feel, because behind the closed doors, it's a whole different arena. So I'm going to discuss a little bit of that today, and hope some will join in. If not, then they review this particular video at a later time. The other aspect of this is what I've been learning and what I've been seeing, especially the last 5 years, is that you take an African leader and he'll go even into America, or he'll go into other places, especially the most prominent, some of the strongest Fulani scholars we have who travel different places. They are accorded more genuine respect than our African leaders. There's an international protocol that the leaders of each company must have when they greet another. But you see, that's starting to be thrown out the window, because you see Trump doesn't obey any laws at all. If he's upset with you, I don't care if you're European or African, you see in his telecast when they show his news, he doesn't care about that protocol. Others do have a protocol, and because they may have a sizable African population, so they'll show in public in front of the TV cameras their warm felt gratitude that they're there. But then once the cameras are blocked off and they go inside the castle, whatever, a building, then the gloves are off and all the disrespect is gone. I mean, all the respect is gone. So we see that, and we've seen this many times. This came prominent when our esteemed brother even went to Captain Torrey. He went to Russia. With all of the accolades that have been thrown his way, when he got to Russia, even Putin had to scold some of his generals who would not salute Captain Torrey. See, now you may say some of this is racism. It could be that, but they just don't have any respect for any African leaders. We've known African Fulani scholars have traveled to Russia and was accorded a lot of respect. We also know that Putin actually met with some scholars, and he has done this many times and offered a lot of respect to them. And if you look even back into history, brothers and sisters, you cover the period probably between 1400 and 1800, which is a prominent, our zenith. We were in our prime, so to speak, as Islamic empires, sultanates and emirates. You look and read the documents of the Europeans. The Europeans had a lot of respect for our sultanates and our emirs and so forth. They had an utmost respect for them. That began to change. Yes, they fought us because we were the last standing to block them from the continent. But they had a lot of respect for us. And they knew that our system of governance and our way of life was the best way for our African people to survive. That's why they went all out to destroy it, and why they still spend billions every year to keep Islamic governance and financing out of the hands of Africans, because they don't want to see a repeat of what happened before, because it took them a long time to defeat the sultanates, the Islamic sultanates. It took them a long time to defeat them. They don't want to see a repeat of that anymore. So when the colonial period came to an end, they wanted to make sure again that strong African Muslim leaders would never be at the helm of these countries, and where they usher in Islamic law. So they have been orchestrating, creating puppet elections, giving oppositions money and so forth and so on to hire thugs to go after people so they'll vote for the man that they want, because the Americans and the West want to keep things as they is, meaning they're taking out our resources for little or nothing, okay? They want to be able to control the mindset and then the political atmosphere on the continent, especially West Africa and the Northwest Africa, because it's in their backyard. They don't want to see this, they don't want to lose this area of influence. And so that's why they're doing everything they can to keep the system as it is. So they usher in weak leaders, so who would do the bidding for them and keep them behind power, behind closed doors and in power. So when we see this, and then when we see these telecasts of African leaders traveling to various Western countries, even Asian countries, we see there's utter disrespect towards them. And so we have to ask why. We have 100 answers to that question. You talk to any African on the continent and you ask him in any language, why do you think the African leaders are disrespected? You'll get a plethora of answers. And for me, as a Black man, a man who's an African, who's a Muslim, I would be ashamed of myself if I go places and people disrespect me, knowing that at home I'm weak, knowing at home I don't take care of my own population, knowing at home I don't protect our natural resources, knowing at home I let them to have army bases, spy camps, Black sites, and everything in my country to go after my own citizens. See? And I'm telling you, it's a very, very sad situation. The response that we have too many times for weak African leaders is the suppression of their population. The Western press and the Western diplomatic corps and the intelligence apparatus all make their reports. And if you remember right, last year, right before or right as when Trump became president, there was an alleged a series of comments he said about African leaders. He said later it wasn't true, but it was a video surfaced. I think it was right before he was elected or he's about getting ready to be nominated, and he made these comments about African leaders. And what he said was right. Yes, we know what he is. Yes, we know him to be a racist and so forth. But you have to, my dad used to always tell me about things like this, as you heard me say. He used to always say, look, I can deal with a man, even though I know he's a racist, because I know what he is up front. The one I can't deal with is the one of the tuba who's smiling in my face. And then when I walk past him, see, he calls me the N-word. See, Trump is straightforward. He's telling African leaders what he thinks of them. If you saw the exchange with the African president, the South African president, he shouldn't even have went to Washington. But he's so bent on trying to get money because why? Because this is the African way of life. Now, with our leaders is to run to America in particular and try to get funds. And those funds don't benefit the general population. That's the hell of it. And we know that Western leaders know this because they comment about that. See, And the Western financial apparatus like IMF, the World Bank, and all these, they give us predatory loans that we can't pay back. And then they make demands of us. So our leaders really set the stage for disrespect of Africans everywhere. When we enter into a Western country, they ask you what country you're from. They see where your passport. They automatically have disrespect for you because of your leader. Because the leader represents the people. And when you have a punkish, weak house Negro or a Chitlin style black leader, they're going to look at him and say, well, he's representing all of his population, and then we all suffer for that. I saw some things that really puzzled me. To the east, we have President Putin. We know President Putin has a profound respect for Islam, and it's genuine. We know that. We also know that he has met with many world Islamic leaders. And he's also met with many scholars and some Fulani scholars. He's offered them a lot of respect because he knows them to be a man of Subhanahu wa ta'ala. He knows that they studied the Quran, the word of Subhanahu wa ta'ala. They know they live their lives basically governed by what Subhanahu wa ta'ala has ordered and what under the interpretation of the Nabi, alayhi salatu salam. They know this. And you watch him when he's with our scholars versus when you see him talking to African leaders, it's not the same. He's more cordial towards African leaders than the rest of the Europeans, the Tubab. And he gives them their due, but he doesn't have the utmost respect for them because he knows that back in their homeland, we are suffering. And for them, why they want our resources, because they look at our African leaders and say, what the hell are you doing? If I had what you had, all my people would be taken care of. This is why they're scrambling to Africa, because they want to take Africa over, because they're all the natural resources. Our African leaders are sitting on gold mines, diamond mines, bauxite, uranium, water, agricultural things that would make this continent extremely rich. And the Europeans, the Tubab leaders know that if a true Muslim, according to the Sharia law, according to the instructions and the Sunnah of Nabi, alayhi salatu salam, they know that those resources be turned into assets and it will enrich all of Africa. They know this. This is why they pay to keep these type of Negro African leaders in power, because they know that they will not take care of their resources and their people, and they'll be able to march in and take our resources. We also know that Trump and his craziness and his genocidal racist tendencies and his precursor to the Ad-Dajjal, what the Christians call the Antichrist. We know him as the Ad-Dajjal. But he has a profound respect for the Muslim leaders. Why? Again, because he knows them not to be phony. He knows in back of his mind that if they were in charge of their countries, their countries would be very powerful and rich, but it would not be in the best interest of the Americans to have Islamic rule and scholars nominate one of their own to run the country, and we were running under Islamic law. Trump is aware of that. He knows that, but he still have profound respect for the ulama and fuqaha, especially the Africans, because he knows them. They may not have the education from Harvard, but they have something that the others don't have. That's faith. He knows that subhanahu wa ta'ala is behind them. So he offers them this respect because he knows he's an adversary that'd be very difficult for him to defeat. If he took reins of Ghana, if he took reins of Nigeria, if he took reins of Maghreb, if he took reins of Egypt, if he took reins of South Africa, Mozambique, any of our countries, Libya, if the strong, devout Muslim, according to the Sharia law, according to the Sunnah and Nabi, alayhi salam, they will be an adversary very difficult to defeat. And when he sends representatives even to Africa to talk to our leaders, they mess on them. They talk to them like they're children. And our African leaders are so weak that they can't say nothing. And here's also the problem. Our African leaders, to a fault, still try to play and rattle the fence. They meet these Tubab leaders and their representatives in their clothing. Here, this representative here comes to the African state, and the African leader doesn't dress in the tradition of our countries. He tries to meet him and try to show him that he's a Tubab. He wears their clothing. And he's not going to give him any respect at all. We've seen this. And we also know that the leaders have a fear, and again, it's a fear and it's a lot of respect for religious leaders, the Muslim religious leaders. They have this idea, and they have to do everything. Yes, they smile in the faces, but they show them respect. And then when they leave, they go back to tell their intelligence apparatus to make sure that you keep these countries and keep out these scholars and these imams, keep them out of power, because they know that there will be a formidable adversary to them, because they know subhanahu wa ta'ala and the malaika, the angels in English, will be looking out for us. Subhanahu wa ta'ala is talked about this issue in the Quran. He also talks about every 100 years or so, he will always have people coming to fight for his cause. We call fisibilillah. The Europeans may be racist, but the Europeans, Tubab, are not stupid. And they realize that their true adversaries is the Muslims. This is why they do what they do. They don't go after the Juju. They don't go after the Obia. They don't go after the Orissa. They don't go after the Obia. They don't go after the Animus. They don't go after the weak, marginal Muslims. They don't care about them. They're not adversaries to them. They control them. But they can't control these. This is the big deal, brothers and sisters. They can't control these brothers. Even if they jail them, even if they curtail them, either they have them under house arrest, as many of our scholars today are under house arrest. They had not committed a crime. They have not robbed anybody. They have not stolen from anybody. They have not coveted someone's wife. They have not lied on someone and filed false charges. They didn't do any of these things. They didn't plot against the governments. They didn't do anything, but they're under house arrest on the orders from the Tubab governments? How many Juju are under arrest like this? How many people from the Orissa are under arrest like this? How many of the animists are on no-fly list? That's the difference. See, that's the difference. So now, as we talk about this, you have this picture, brothers and sisters, of what I'm trying to get at. Here we have a general, okay, in the U.S. Army talking to African leaders. Now we're starting to bring Black Tubab from the military to talk to their African brothers. They're not Pan-Africanists. They're not Black nationalists either. That's why they empower where they are, because they do the bidding. They consider themselves Black, yes, may even consider them African Americans. They may consider that. But their whole apparatus and whole genre is American system. And to carry it out. And they don't realize that when they do this, they're doing it in order to keep their white masters in charge. See? And this same general has his orders, see, to make sure that he curtails our African leaders. I mean, our scholars of Islam. See, so now we see this, and hopefully, brothers and sisters, you get this picture. And again, I'm giving you another aspect of how things are in the world, and why we want the best for our continent, but we cannot get the best out of us as long as we have the leadership we have. Now, you'll say, well, Yahya, what are you talking about? You're talking about killings? No, we're not talking about armed demonstrations. We're not talking about violent takeovers and all this and coups. No, we're not talking about that. Here, I'm talking to give you this advice about our African leaders, what we should do and how we should approach this and how we should be thinking, because they are a detriment to us. And they know it, but their hands are tied. And I'm not going to say it is their fault, because now we see even Captain Tory, I have my disagreements with him, but at least he stands up to the Tubab. Mali was the first one out of the Western corridor to become debt free. He's not saying yes sir boss anymore to the Tubab. The Niger president is behind, right? He's close to being solvent again. We know Captain Rory, they are now debt free. He's not saying yes sir boss anymore. But the rest of the African leaders talk good and tough, but they're still being controlled behind doors. Rwanda, Kenya, Tanzania, all of the African leaders, you look at this, they're all still controlled by Tubab. He may get on TV, he may come on the African stations, he may come on CNN, he may come into many other stations, but he is still being controlled. And it's a white man behind him telling him what to do. Brothers and sisters, I got to mention this. It's going to come a time on this continent that this type of Sultan will appear. He may carry the modern weaponry that we know today, but he is going to be driven by the Quran and the Sunnah. And he's going to take up positions like that of his ancestors, Muslim ancestors. He is going to wait on the advice that Subhanahu wa ta'ala gives to the Malaika, who in turn give the word to this man. And I believe this kind of man is going to step forward, maybe not my lifetime, but he will come. And he will not be dressed in a three-piece European suit. He is not going to emulate the Tuba. See, so I just want to get that out because I believe that's going to happen in short order. So when we look at this, brothers and sisters, in a nutshell, we see our pitiful African leaders. And we don't know what to do with them. We can't, as Muslims, we have some rules even about praying for others. And I don't know how you pray for a crooked leader, in that you pray for him that he come the right way. He's a Muslim leader. We pray for him to come to the right way. But we do not know, and you have to be very careful because we have something under the Sharia law where there's no intercession. You cannot ask for intercession. We don't have this type of raib, the Quranic Arabic word raib, where we have this particular power of looking into things or having certain innate powers. We don't have this. And we don't have the right to ask for intercession. That right was given to the Prophet ﷺ. I don't know what we can do for these kind of leaders who don't have their countries at best interests. See, and so this is the type of thing that makes it very difficult for us. When you see 60 to 70%, in some places, even more than 80% of the population are unlettered. They can't read and write. You have in many coastal African states, people they can't even afford to eat fish when fish is so abundant on the African continent. They can't even afford to get it. When we're sitting on resources that will make all of us rich, make all of us have homes and cars and beautiful streets and beautiful cities. We have this kind of wealth here that if we sold it on the world market, we could actually supersede the West. This is why the man to our left is kept in power, so this would not happen. And this is why they want to make sure that the man on the left is not given the position of power as the president, as we don't know them in Islamic law as presidents or prime ministers. We know them as Amir or he's a Sultan. See, we don't have what is called presidents and prime ministers. This is the tahakma ila haghot. We call this in the Quran, what Subhanahu wa ta'ala says. This is the way of evil. See, we don't have these designations. And I cringe when I see a Muslim leader calling himself a president or he calls himself prime minister. You're not that. Is that what the Prophet ﷺ called? What he said? No. See, so they want to make sure that he on your left is not given the position of power. And we see this today. And we know that we see our generals coming who are Black African Americans. They're coming to the continent because now they even want to put a black face on white supremacy. And these Black Tuba generals and so forth come to ensure that they keep the countries as it is here on the continent. And they keep the programs intact to go after devout Muslims, to keep them out of all governance. Create a campaign that you scare the people into making them believe that the real enemy is this man that you should fear to your left, and not the man who's selling drugs or not the man who's robbing people. Those, they want that to permeate through the land, but they want to create a false impression and picture to show the man on the left as a criminal, as a malcontent, as a danger to humanity. This campaign has been successful since 9/11. Why the African states crime rate is skyrocketing? Because the concentration is on the man on the left, not on the man who's robbing, not on the mafias, not on the drug traffickers, not on the terrorists. See? And you have to look at it from another standpoint, brothers and sisters. Strong Islamic groups are interdicted. Their leaders are killed, jailed, and so forth, even exiled. And that Islamic group is curtailed. But you notice that the so-called quote-unquote terrorist groups like the AQ and ISIS, they get beaten, but they always allow them to escape. Have you ever thought about that? But when you have a devout Islamic group who want the best for the continent, want the best for their particular area where they live, where they will bring in and usher in the Sunnah of Nabi alayhi salam and the Sharia of law, that group is interdicted, stopped, probed, jailed, and in many instances killed off. All of this is the big game, brothers and sisters, that you must understand, especially the younger generation today. You must fight to stop this wicked system. You must vote out and take out our weak Uncle Tom leaders like this, because they are a detriment to the continent. They're not an asset. They are a detriment to the continent. We're not talking about killing them. We're not talking about hurting them. No, but it's the fault also of the masses of people, because they have been so brainwashed into believing that everything has to be democratically done. And democracy has killed this continent. The financial system killed in this continent. See, so when you hear my words today, you go over this, spread this out. This is a different talk, but again, it's online because we have, on the continent, we have a myriad of problems, even in the Sahel. And again, brothers and sisters, you heard me talk about this. If our leaders, if they were real grounded in Islamic law, they would go to our Mujahideen groups and our other groups and bring them to the table. See? And they don't want to do this. Because again, even though they may be independent, like Mali and Burkina Faso and Niger, Niger is independent and almost solvent now. but there's somebody that's behind them. And I don't believe it's the Americans, because they still got the same system going. They still got the same system where they kill off the people like me. And by the time they have killed off people like me, they had the populace to believe that all of the ills of the country are because of devout scholars and intellectuals like me. And the devil, because these people work with the devil and with the demons, they convince the people that people like me, or if you get rid of them, like us, then your way of life will be better. After we're killed off, you still have the same problems. Have you noticed that? And when you're walking down the street and you get robbed and the police don't come, see? And when you see the mafia is gaining a foothold, then you kind of start to ask questions, what's going on here? I don't want to mention the African state now, but this particular African state is a staunch state against terrorism. Very staunch. And they want to make sure that these individuals don't come into play. But wait a minute. This particular country is under the tutelage of the American security apparatus. And they told them, we want certain things done. So they created a climate to where devout Muslims can't even go to the masjid. Devout Muslims are arrested and interdicted and many times beaten. And so they misdirected the terrorism labels on the people like me. And now this country is now being inundated by ISIS. Because why? People like ISIS were interdicted because everybody's watching. They'll put 100, 200 people on, say, people like me. I mean, everywhere you go, it's 10, 20, 30, 40 in cars, walking with microphones, talking, and running all to the people like they're doing something. Oh, yeah, oh man, he's a big terrorist. And this is why we're doing, that's why we're following him. All the while, ISIS is now starting to permeate through the land. Because the program was misdirected by the Americans. Americans told them, this is what we want. So they funneled the money. So they put 100, 200 on an old man. The old man. He goes here, he goes there. He can't run anymore. He just goes to the mess. He comes home. He sees his family, and so forth. And they got 100 people trailing him. 200 in houses, surveilling him every move. He goes to the bathroom, someone's watching him. He goes to eat, someone's watching him. All the while, ISIS now is starting to get a foothold in that particular country. And then people saying, well, how can that be? I thought we were supposed to be fighting terrorism. They fought the people like me, yes. But the ones who should have been fighting, they left them alone. This is the point I'm trying to make. Our weak African leaders, if they were strong and devout, especially the Muslims, they would be seeking the advice from people like us, and they would have a Islamic governance. And we would put an end to this. I'm going to tell you something. You get really good Islamic law where they follow it to a letter. There's no more mafias. There may be small mafias here and there, but if they get caught, they get executed. These kidnapping, roving thugs and miscreants, especially in northern Nigeria and other places where they're running havoc, some even have just run through small cities and terrorized the city, robbed them, kidnapped their most prominent citizens and so forth. Under the Sharia law, See, we would have the Hezbollah. Hezbollah is the police force who enforces the Sharia law. They would be the sword and executioner. These people here will be arrested and put before the Qadi, which is the Islamic judge. And according to their crimes, like being muharaba, waylaying his cars going through the highway in northern Nigeria, they go and waylay the family, take their husband, take the prominent man, and then get him and kidnap him and ask for a ransom. These thugs who do this type of thing, if we were running real devout, straight to the T Islamic law, we would get these bastards, put them before the Qadi, and accordingly, especially the Muharaba, he's finished. According to the law of the Prophet, what he did to the Muharaba, who kidnap people like this, waylay people out in the open. We call them Muharaba. They will get the message quick that they know that if they get caught, they'll lose their heads. See, so brothers and sisters, you see, I'm all about the continent and its betterment. And I'm telling you now, this here is not the betterment. These leaders are not the betterment of our countries. They're not. They are detriment. See, they are a detriment. And when we send African-American congressmen to meet with African leaders, and we tell these African leaders to come to the country, and now the Americans are very smart now. They start to use black faces a lot to deal with African leaders. But they still want to keep them in line. Our leaders are a detriment to the continent. And we're not seeing the improvements that we need to survive. See, so this is something, again, brothers and sisters, that I talk about today as a criticism, because I want to see it done. I still firmly believe, without any hesitation, that the best way of life is to get our brightest people. And we have Muslim leaders. Why? Because the Islamic law and financial system is the best that you can get. If you look around the world today, outside of, especially like America, there's Devon Bank, there's some other ones. Look at these Islamic banks and see how solvent they are. You look at the country of Brunei. It's a small country in Asia, right? They said, we're going to run the Sharia law. And what did the Emir do? He enriched his people. And it's one of the wealthiest nations, especially in the sense that the people have wealth. Everybody, no one is basically living in squalor. But the best way of life, that we have all this riches on this continent, is by putting the right people in charge. We have brilliant economists and financiers who could help bring the country to the forefront. But it has to be done under the religious system we call Islam. This democracy has killed us. And I don't care how you turn it over and over and over, it never works. Subhanahu wa ta'ala has said this. And he told the Nabi 1400 years this when he gave him his words, see, for the testament for until Yom Kippur. And these systems don't work. See? So we have to see this, and you have to look and analyze when you see a man as staunch cruel, wicked, but there's some things to his madness. And you read him. He doesn't like Islam. He doesn't like Muslims. But he has a respect for the religious leaders. Or ulama, he has a respect for them. See? And he doesn't mess on them. Because there's something in him, even though he is as cruel as he realizes something that he don't want to basically, in some sense, mess with a man like this. Because he does have some elements of faith in his heart that he may feel that a repercussion would happen if he goes out his way to mistreat the scholarly body like this. When you have Fulani leaders who come forth and meet the President Trump, or come to meet President Putin. And if you watch many of these old videos, especially last couple of years, when you find things like this, you watch the differences between even President Putin, where he acts towards the Muslim leaders versus the African leaders. There's a difference. There's a difference. Our African leaders cannot garner, this respect like a scholar of Islam. They cannot. So I'm giving you this unauthorized talk because I'm a Muslim. And I'm not blinded by thinking, and say, well, I think this, that by governance. I am certain that Islamic governance is best. Because I'm going to tell you something, brother, sister, when you look at this, you don't clear the smoke, okay? Clear the smoke from your houses in front of your face. Clear it. If you clear it and you start to ask what happened in the time as the colonial period began to take fold, how much manpower, how many Western soldiers died, what did they do? They wanted to dismantle the Islamic system because they saw how powerful it was. Think about it. If the Islamic system was not working, why they would say, hey man, go ahead. You want to run Islamic law? Okay, go ahead. Run Islamic financing? I don't care. But they don't want you to do that because they know it works. Putin is smart. He's got the largest Muslim population in Europe is in Russia. It's not in Britain. It's not in France. You look it up. The largest Muslim population is in Russia. He has now allowed Islamic banking system in his country. Not one bank, one here and there. He's allowed the banking system be used because he's a smart man. He knows that this financial system works. And he's making it easier also to bring in scholars and whatnot to come to Russia because it's a growing Islamic population. See? So, this is something, brothers and sisters, that, I brought this out because this is something that is dear to me. And also because I've been seeing this element and this disrespect of our leaders for a long time. And this makes it very difficult. See, very, very difficult when you see constantly African leaders being disrespected. And, I don't know, what I can say, what we can do at this stage to get the right people in the governance. It's very difficult. See, it's very, very difficult to get the ones who should be governing. And it makes it very difficult for all of us. When you have a crooked system in place, Subhanahu wa ta'ala removes his hand from it. And this is what we see on the African continent today. And it's unfortunate. So I didn't have many people come today, show up today. It's a work day. I understand that. And I hope people will see this later and review this. And this is food for thought for people to think about this. We all want on the continent, we want to see the best, and we want to have a livelihood. You know, you think about what we have on this continent. Every person on this continent should be living in very nice homes and clean streets, and so for modern technology. You know, when Gaddafi, before he was murdered, you know, Gaddafi took a lot of his riches and he put everyone in homes. I don't know if you guys know that. He made all the medical things free. This is not communism either. We're not talking about, no, he was using that system. He took his wealth and then he empowered his people with it. We may disagree with him on other things, but one thing he did, he took his wealth and he made sure that everyone had homes. So basically people living rent free because they had a home and it was theirs. So therefore the people now have their own home. They now have money to spend, okay, on a lot of other things. And so he was empowering his people in this regard before he was killed. And you guys should read about the programs he had. He had the programs where medical, it was free. Education was free. So you can go from the elementary school we know in America all the way up to university level. You don't have to pay for it. See, this is an visionary. And he even said too, he was talking about an issue about the black people outside of Africa. He wanted to incorporate them and make them African citizens. When he made this speech at the AU, there was people watching this, and it was too visionary. So they wanted to get rid of him. He wanted to also give African passports to Black Americans, Caribbean Africans, and South American Africans, Brazilian Africans, and so forth. Give us passports and make us citizens. This is what, because he said if he was president of the AU, this is what he would push to have done. They killed him for that. Also, he wanted to take the gold that we have, which is, we have so much of it on this continent, is this, we could drown out all financial systems if we wanted. He wanted to usher in a gold coin system that would have blew out the Western financial system. See, and we would be traveling visa-free through the continent. We have our passport. I can go from Morocco to South Africa. I get my visa at the door. There's no, well, why are you here? And so forth and so on, this kind of crap, but you're Moroccan, you're from Morocco. Why are you here in Morocco? Why are you here in South Africa? That kind of crazy. You want to put it into that. See, so, but this is going to happen. Someone's going to come and they won't be able to kill this man off. And I believe it's sooner than later. I believe this man is going to be like something like this. So when he shows up, they won't be able to kill him. See, and when this kind of man shows back up here in the future, it's going to be lights out for the West. And this man is not going to tolerate no BS. And he's not going to tolerate democratic ways and means. He's going to tell you it's going to be the Quran or the Safe, which is Sunnah. And I believe this kind of man is coming. This is one of the reasons why the Americans and the Western powers are so afraid, and why they keep interdicting the religious scholars, because they're anticipating somebody will come up out of our ranks, and they will lead the people from the darkness into the light. See, and the West understands that once you have staunch Islamic law, their influence is gone. It's over. And we even have rules about even having, treaties with them. They would not have any army bases, spy camps, or any other drone camps that they can use to go kill other Africans. They won't have that. See? So, brothers and sisters, today, I covered quite a bit here talking about the African leaders and what I suspect. And I also gave you something too, and you guys pull up old tapes. You find some of the stuff in YouTube, you review it and study the face of that particular Western Tubab leader and watch how he acts towards a Islamic scholar versus the way he looks at a modern day African leader like this. You'll see the differences of what I'm talking about if you watch it and look at it good. You watch Putin, how he is best of all of the Europeans as far as in regards and as far as him with African leaders. He's far better than all the other European leaders, no doubt about that. But you look at him when he's in meetings, or he's excuse me, that's not the right one. When he meets a African scholar, and watch how he acts with them versus a African leader. There's a profound difference, brothers and sisters. I saw that, and I noticed it. Not only one time, I saw another video where it seemed similar to that as well. I saw the utmost respect for this particular scholar. And I watch his tapes when he greets the African leaders. He's better than the most, but you can see there's a difference. Even though these European leaders may have some reservations about Islam, yes, no doubt. But they have something in their heart that makes them offer this respect. But on the same token, in order for their livelihood to stay intact, they have to keep the people like this out of power. So in one way, it's hypocrisy, because he has the utmost respect for these leaders like this, the scholars. But he, on the other hand, he's working in his homeland to keep him out of power, because he realized that if he gets into power, it's lights out for him and his people and his influence. So you see this, and I'm giving you these examples for you to ponder and to think about. If you disagree, no problem, I understand. I wanted to cover this talk. It's unorthodox, but I wanted to cover this because it's an important topic. I wanted to give you something so you could think about this. So, brothers and sisters, that nobody showed up today, and I don't know if I had any technical problems or anything like this. Because I did get one sign or something that it showed. I didn't get anything in the chat. That's why it was kind of unusual. So I don't know if there's something wrong. I see a few people showed up today, but again, I know it's a work day. But I just noticed, and I'm hoping that there's no technical difficulties, and whatnot like this. I'm hoping it's not the case. But anyway, brothers and sisters, I'm going to stop here and whatnot, and hopefully I'll see you in a couple of days with another topic to cover. And I'm hoping that you will, take my words today. Those who come later, please review my talk and see if you see the same things I see in regards to this. Why are African leaders so disrespected globally? Why they are so disrespected? I just, it's really a shame how they're disrespected, and and I just wanted to talk about it. I wanted to see what you guys think about this as well. So you ponder my words and think that if I'm right on target on with this talk, because we all want the betterment of our beloved continent, and we want to see it enriched, and we want to see our people in prosperity, not suffering as much as we suffer on this continent today, when there should be no suffering like that. We got too much wealth. We have so much wealth, and it's not going to run out. Subhanahu wa ta'ala did this for a reason. They can't farm out all the gold we have here. They just cannot. They cannot take out all the oil either. We have phosphate that they can't drill out. We have it everywhere. We have so much wealth on this continent, and it's not even being utilized. It's being put into pockets of the Tubab. It's put into pockets into corruption, corrupt systems, and corrupt individuals, and we're suffering greatly under their hands. So I'll leave you with that, brothers and sisters. Assalamu alaikum. Rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.